Hello friends, this is Dr. Amarjeet Kaur. I am professor at the Department of Management, Gurugram University, Gurugram. I am author of 8 books and 56 research papers, and I carry about 30 years of work experience in private sector of teaching, a public sector teaching as well as in industry. So it's my privilege to be present here and talk on body language in communication. We will cover this topic into 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. In the first part, we will talk about eye contact in the body language, and in the second part, we will talk about facial expressions, and we will talk about how do we make our head movements. So, the role of these 3 elements in body language is the agenda for today. So, friends, we all know and understand that communication is not all about words, right? It's not always written communication or the verbal communication, where we use words either in our speaking or in writing, right? So there is non-verbal communication as well. So we have different signs on the road whenever we are driving, right? A stop sign is there. There's nothing written at all. So that is a non-verbal communication. We get to know that we cannot make a U-turn at this red light, right? So U-turn and then across. So this is a traffic signal sign. It's not written that no U-turn or U-turn is not allowed. Just the sign we use, right? You may have done something very good. Your parents or your teacher show you thumbs up. So that's something, somebody is actually applauding you for the task you have done, right? This V sign, most of the time you would have seen the political parties after the elections results are announced, standing, coming into the picture into media and making V sign. Or even a team, if it wins any match, even they pose in V sign, showing their hands, making V. So we all know V is victory. So there are so many such things which we know, photo signs, some direction sign, go this side, go that side. This is what we do in day-to-day life. So these are all examples of non-verbal communication, right? So this non-verbal communication, as I said, means there is no word involved into that communication. It's without words. Neither the spoken language, the spoken word, or nor the written one. So no words are used. Only, other than anything, other than words, whatever we use to communicate is basically non-verbal communication. So there are 7 types of non-verbal communication. The first one is where we involve body. So we call it as body language, the most important one amongst the non-verbal communication means. The second one is kinetic communication. The third one is proxemic communication. The fourth one is haptic communication. The fifth one is paralinguistic communication. The sixth one is chromatic communication. And the seventh is chronomatic communication. So chromatic and chronomatic communication. Right, so we have 7 kinds of non-verbal communication. As I said, today's agenda is only to talk about the first one. The remaining we will take in our future lectures. So we are beginning with the body language, the first non-verbal communication. We have in the past discussed about non-verbal communication in general, but now we are going to take up one by one all the means of non-verbal communication. That is the agenda for next few lectures, in fact. Okay, so the body language, what is body language? We all understand, we probably use it that uska body language अच्छा नहीं था, वो कह तो कुछ और रहा था but उसकी body language कुछ और बोल रही थी. This is what we have heard from friends, from family members many a times, right? It means body language plays a very important role in seeking trust or in effective communication. Okay, so what does it comprises of? What is body language? So body language is a range of non-verbal signals that we use to communicate our feelings, our intention, our message or our idea to someone else, right? So we communicate, as we know, to share the information, to share the idea, to share the complaint, the thought, the emotion, the feeling we have. Okay, so it's a range of non-verbal signals that we are using to communicate our thought, our idea, our feeling, our intention, whatever you may have to say. Okay, so basically body language is a complex mixture of movements of our body, the posture of our body and the tone of voice, right? So the movement of our hands, like for example I am moving my hands, the movement of our eyeballs, our posture, am I sitting like this, or am I sitting like this, or am I sitting like this, or am I sitting like this? This is also speaking about the message. So it's a complex mixture of the movements, posture and tone of voice, three things. Okay, so in body language, our physical behavior, opposite to the verbal communication, where words play a role. So here in non-verbal communication, in body language, the physical behavior is used to express or convey the information, because communication means communicare, as it comes from the Latin language. We know it is to communicate, it is to share the knowledge, information, idea, complaint, or fact. So physical behavior of the person who is sender of the information plays a role here. It comes into picture. Okay, it comprises that only, in fact. So mixture of the body posture, movement and tone of voice together. Now all those people who are expert in communication, those behavioral scientists, they all have some particular view. They say that body language really decides the quality of our communication in total to a large extent, right? So this is not what I am claiming. This is what has been said by behavioral scientists, by experts who are actually working or researching in communication. They do claim that body language plays a very pivotal role in deciding the quality of our communication. How effective our communication will be perceived or received will depend upon how good you are in selecting the right gesture or right movement of your body parts involved in communication. And we have seen that body language is used all the time, either at workplace or in personal communication. Okay, so it's something which we cannot ignore at all. It's extremely important part of the total communication effectiveness. Now body language has different meaning in different cultures. It's not that all the time a particular body language, a gesture or movement will perceived similar in different cultures. In different cultures, majority of the cultures we know, nodding this way, nodding your head is yes, but there are still many cultures where nodding this is no even. Okay, so but in general, most commonly used acceptance or interpretation of nodding is yes, but nevertheless different cultures have different interpretation of the body language. Now we can actually develop this skill of body language, and to develop so it requires time, effort. I have seen changes in myself. If I go back 30 years ago when I started working, how was I sitting in a meeting? What was my hand posture or my body posture? It has entirely changed. So I am learning every passing day about how to sit in a meeting, how to stand for a photograph, all those things. How to respond when I am shaking hand, what is the posture of my hand, what is the height of my hand, where I am looking at. All those things have gradually improved, which actually establishes that we can actually work on our body language, and we can improve gradually over time. with certain efforts. Now there are three components of body language. Number one, eye contact, which is the most important one, facial expression, and then head position and head movement. So how do we look at somebody is what in general is eye contact means. Then the facial expressions. The third one is head position and movement. So we'll take up these three one by one. In the first half, I am going to cover eye contact. The last two components of body language will be covered in the second half of the lecture today. Okay, so let's start with eye contact. So eye contact is a very direct and powerful tool of communication. It's a straight tool of communication. It's basically an action, an act of someone. That how someone looks at the other person whom he or she is communicating to, right? So act of looking at something is called eye contact. It's something, could be somebody, some object, right? Some subject, some object. Okay, so the way we look at someone often reveals our feelings at that point of time. Without saying anything, our eyes can actually reveal a lot. Somebody would have been looking at the other person with lust. We can figure out the man, the person opposite, or it could be a woman even, is looking at me with some lust. So somebody is looking at you with some trust, that he or she believes in you and is expecting you to do something for him or her. Somebody is looking at you with smile, so he is just happy about whatever you said or you have done. Somebody is just looking at you with some anger, is annoyed with you, so he or she is not saying anything, mind you, right? But how the other person standing in front of you or opposite to you is looking at you reveals a lot about the feelings he or she has that point of time, right? So this way we look at somebody is really very important and is important part of body language in total. So this eye contact is basically directly related to the selection or rejection of any object in our conscious. So how I am perceiving that object which I am looking at in my conscious, in my conscience, right? That decides that either I have accepted that object, I have rejected that object, I have some confusion about that object, so that eye contact reveals it. So that's why we say that though he said okay from his side that this project is okay, we accept your proposal, but his eyes were not consistent. If you remember those 7 C's, one of the C is consistency. So if the body is actually, my body language is not consistent with what my eyes are communicating, it becomes inconsistent communication, right? So which is not trusted. The moment my eyes, my body, so eye is my part of my body, right? So the moment my eyes says something else than what my mouth is speaking, so this is inconsistent. And the moment there is an inconsistency, my communication becomes ineffective for sure. So I hope you are getting my point. So in our mind, when we look at any object or any subject, either we have selected, we have rejected that object, it is actually revealed through our eyes. So our eyes speaks a lot. We have so many Hindi songs on eyes, which tells us that eyes speaks louder than words. Eyes tells about what is happening inside the mind or the heart of a person. So many songs are there, beautiful songs especially the old songs in this regard. Now in eye contact, technically what plays a role? In any eye contact, technically, we have a pupil. Pupil which is there inside in the middle of our eyes, right? So the pupil of eyes are actually the component of eye gaze. So how do we look? So my gaze behavior, how I gaze somebody, my gaze behavior is technically has, it has, so one has no control on that. How I gaze is basically depends upon the pupil, the design of my pupil, how my eyes are. Somebody have very wide eyes, somebody have brown eyes, somebody has green eyes like I have. Color is different, size is different, shape is different for one to another person, right? So we hardly get to see similar eyes. So technically these pupils in our eyes, they are actually not controlled by someone. This is how somebody has born with. Okay, so it's so natural. Technically we do not have any control, and we know that those pupils, they dilate, they pop up, they pop out. In fact, if we are interested in some object, our eyes will widen like that, if we are interested in something. If we are not interested, we will have, our eyes are almost closed, or we are not looking at the object. So if I become so much interested in any object which is in front of me, my pupil are supposed to be dilating, right? It's supposed to be popping out, popping up. Okay, so that's how people play a role in the eye contact. So another thing is that nothing actually builds trust and rapport with a person as effectively as eye contact. We just recall 1,000 examples on day-to-day basis. Somebody is sad, crying, needs help. You just went, you looked into his eyes or her eyes, you just hugged, and person believed. You developed a rapport with that person just with the help of your eyes, right? So your eye contact actually helped you build the rapport with the person. You didn't do anything, you didn't say anything. It was just purely body language, and within the body language, the eye contact, the first element, which help you to build that trust, right? So you can have the idea that in your classroom, if the teacher is teaching and you ask some question, if he or she answers looking straight in your eyes, you can believe that teacher is correct. She was knowing her subject, he was knowing his subject, he or she answered correctly. So that trust builds immediately, that rapport with the person builds immediately basis on the kind of eye contact we have. People who are lying may not be able to see into your eyes straight, right? And that is the moment the person who is sender of the message, and is not able to put his eyes straight or look into your eyes of the receivers, he or she loses trust. So that's very, very important. Another important point in eye contact is that, it varies from culture to culture. Within our country, if you go to a very educated family, where children are taught to look straight into the eyes of the parents and answer, but there are families or the culture where children are taught not to look at the senior's eyes at all. So they are supposed to be bending their head, look down on the floor while answering. So still we have such culture in our country, believe me or not. You go to faraway places, you will find all kind of culture pertaining to eye contact. Okay, so it varies significantly from one geographical area to the another geographical area, from one culture to another culture, and of course it does vary from one country to another country, right? So whatever I am discussing, I am discussing broader. The majority of people accepts or takes or interprets this way or that way. right? But doesn't mean that there is no different interpretation of a particular pose of the body or particular eye contact, type of eye contact. You just look at this. So this picture, it tells you, different eye, without saying, if you just look at the eyes of this gentleman, which, so I owe the credit to the to the Google for where I used this picture from. So fear, the first picture shows fear, your eyes are showing fear. The second picture shows, there's a contempt. Third is disgusting, you're not disliking, oh no. So without saying oh no or bad, so my eyes will just squeeze in and this is how I will react, right? Anger, I'm angry. So without saying, my eyes are showing that I'm angry. Sad, my eyes are down, so I'm really sad, that my eyes shows. I'm very happy, there's a brightness in my eyes, my pupil is completely open, my eyes are wide, and it's completely wide but there's no smile, then it is surprise. So different posture of my eyes shows different eye contact and this different message through my eyes. Okay, so now we will talk about how do we interpret eye contact, the common interpretation of eye contact. So if we have too much of eye contact, it communicates, it tells us the other person who is communicating with you, if he or she has too much of eye contact, so he looks so much into your eyes, he's just straightway looking into your eyes, is not looking left or right, and is really spending lot more time on straight eye contact, it means the person feels or believes he is superior. That is an indication that the person has a feeling of superiority. So he or she has a superiority complex or feels he or she is superior. Most of the time, boss will be doing this. When he will be dealing with his subordinates, he or she, if he is a good leader, confident about his idea or thought, he would straight be looking in the eyes of his subordinates. That gives the sense of superiority. Domination, another way that somebody is trying to dominate, so looking straight into the eyes, so there's too much eye, so he or she is maintaining too much of eye contact, so he or she is trying to dominate the other person. If somebody is trying to threat the other person, even that can be communicated by too much of eye contact. Or if the sender has lack of respect for the receiver, right? Even then you will have that the person will have too much of eye contact. So it varies from proving the superiority, domination to the lack of respect, right? So it can be either way, because eye contact alone doesn't decide what kind of communication or message we are coming. You will have your facial expressions along with your body gesture, your head movement, everything together becomes a body language, right? Since we are discussing in length, in detail about the eye contacts, that's why I am just focusing on eye contact now. But body language, as I said, is a combination of so many elements together. Okay, so too much of eye contact is actually giving you idea of superiority, domination, threat, and lack of respect. So it's basically, if somebody wants to insult, he will just look into his eyes and just put bang on the table without saying. Person has communicated, look, I am superior. Person just bangs on the table, just looks straight in the eyes, and it's kind of person is threatening to the receiver. Okay. How do we interpret if the eye contact is too limited, too little? So it means I am not giving attention. If I am a sender of the information or I am a receiver of information, and if I am not paying too much of attention, so how it is can be interpreted by one sign, that there's a little eye contact, very little eye contact. So that indicates either lack of attention or somebody is just impolite, insincere, dishonest. So if somebody is not sincere, somebody is not honest, somebody is shy. So we have seen that there are people who are shy, and that's a very common thing. Many males, many females, we have seen they are very shy. So it is difficult for them to have proper or very much high eye contact. They communicate, but they are not dishonest even, but they are just shy, and because of that they cannot maintain straight eye contact for longer or for desired duration. Okay. Then the third thing is withdrawing eye contact. So by lowering the eyelids or eyes. So it is just sign of submission that I'm submitting, I'm accepting, right? So that is the sign of submission. So if somebody is just withdrawing eyes by lowering down his lids. Now the last thing in this eye contact I would like to discuss is gaze behavior. So if I am gazing straight here on your eyes, like here in this part, forming a triangle here, so it's basically formal gaze. I am not looking anything below, any point below your eyes. In a formal gaze, in an interview, you are not supposed to be looking at the rest of the body of the interviewer, right? So a formal gaze would be that somebody is making a glance or gaze at this area, which is a triangle between the two eyelashes or your eyebrows. Okay. Then the informal gaze. So if the speaker looks at somebody's area below the eye level, so a triangle is forming somewhere at the face, somewhere at nose, mouth or neck, but below eyes. So not at this area, but little below. So that is informal gaze. Personal gaze, a person can look at, at the chest area, at the lower area, abdominal area or thigh area. That's a personal gaze, right? So here the speaker may keep on shifting eyes from your upper area to middle area to lower area. That's a very, very personal. This is how you just look. The straight eye into eye contact is a formal. This picture is showing you a formal eye contact. This was just to illustrate that how the eye contact makes a difference. I hope you could understand how eye contact, eye gaze, the pupils in eyes, everything together make an impact in the effective communication as part of body language. Thank you very much for being with me. Thank you.